Hello and welcome to Individualists Unite. I am the Radical Individualist, aka Chip, and this is the third part in my three-part segment with Rich in our Conversations with Real People. For further comment, please go to Individualists Unite at Substack.com. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening.
I read somewhere somebody said we need to be as suspicious of big business as we do of big government.
Yeah,
And
absolutely. It's getting to be less and less of a difference. Government, business.
Yeah.
To some extent, that's always been true, but I think more so perhaps now than ever.
I don't know.
Because there's a new term, I think it's a new corporatism. Kind of a blend of capitalism and government. And I see it. And I'm not opposed to capitalism, but capitalism implies legitimate competition, not breaking the deck,
Exactly. Yeah. I agree with that. And I agree that capitalism has a lot of flaws, but I think a well-regulated capitalist society provides probably a better opportunities and a better life for its citizens than any other one that we've come up with yet.
When it comes to material goods, there's no question. When it comes to healthcare, perhaps, no question, because even China has advanced to the degree that it has, as a communist country, it's advanced through capitalism.
Right.
Through the factories, through actually a fair amount of free trade that it wasn't used to having. And I point out to people, and I don't know if I'm the weird guy or not, but it's not capitalism or communism. Capitalism is focusing resources on making a product or a service happen. You want phones, you need a factory.
Right.
And you need suppliers for all the stuff that goes into that factory so they can make a phone. That's the only way. I don't care if this was made in a communist country or a free market country or anywhere else.
Yeah.
It came out of a factory someplace, and that's the only way this phone can happen.
Right.
Most of anything we have. My shirt, for Pete's sakes, out of a factory. That's capitalism, pure and simple. And that people denigrate and say, I hate capitalism. Well, go around naked and don't have a phone.
Yeah. Well, I sort of have a little different view of that. My view of capitalism is more free markets, and someone can start a business without too many, hindrances, and can make their way. Where socialism, if they want to make cars, the government owns the factory, and they decide how it's going to be run, and they don't have to worry about any competitors because they're the only one.
Yeah, but I think you're conflating, communism and free market, but the capitalism can exist either way.
Okay.
So, and this is the point I make that other people go, what?
Yeah, I didn't know that.
Factory's a factory. In communist China, it can be across the street in America. It's a factory. It makes what it makes. Does the factory work more efficiently in a free market than in a communist situation? Generally, yes. I don't say that philosophically or because I've worked it all out. I just pay attention. Better cars come out of free market economies than they come out of a communist economy.
And they're more efficient. Like the government has to, subsidize it with all these millions of dollars that the government puts in, where in a free market economy, the government may not put any in. It's all investors.
Funny you should mention that. Look at all the subsidies our government, our free market, allegedly government is putting in.
But you're right.
Yeah.
You're right.
And I think that's a big damn mistake. Yeah.
You're right. That's something currently, and they've always done that to a certain extent. During World War II, they subsidized all kinds of factories.
And you can say, a world war, you suspend all the usual stuff. I can. Thing is, at the end of a war, I don't think it matters what war or where. At the end of every war, whatever they ramped up to at that point, they don't back it back down after the war. They just go from there. It gets worse and worse. But when government picks the winners in a free market society. Who are we kidding? It's not a free market society.
No, I agree. And probably some sectors of the economy, our government does, to a certain extent, pick the winners.
Oh, that's okay.
But there's still a lot more freedom to do something like that than in a lot of countries.
Oh, yeah.
And like Elon Musk and started from scratch. Nobody thought you could make something from a company from scratch to fight the mainstream auto companies, and he did. And I don't think he could have done that, in China or Russia, most likely. But anyway, I'm. But yeah, that's a difference. Yeah, but it's funny. I didn't know. I thought capitalism and free markets are the same thing.
Yeah, not really. I mean, free market is, if you go to the bazaar in Kathmandu and trade stuff, that's free market. It's not capitalism,
Right.
So,
yeah.
Big deal capitalists are trading off resources or something, and it's free market and it's capitalism. So it's it doesn't. They don't have to go together.
Right.
Often they do.
One thing, I forgot my line of thought that I was going to bring up. Oh, about we hear in this country, from the right. And this is my. From the media sources I trust and so on.
You trust media sources?
Some, and some I distrust very strongly.
Okay.
Well, and some
I do know. My bad, I do. But
I don't totally trust any media company, but there's some I find much more credible than others. But I
won't argue with that. Absolutely, but
as far as saying socialist or even from the left calling person capitalist, there's so many aspects in most countries, even countries that are democracies and have a free market economy, there's aspects of socialism in that, and I think that's okay to a certain extent. Aspects of what some people will call socialism. I don't know the academic, description, but they say, oh, you're, sending kids to college for free. That's socialist, paying for their, and, but, to a certain degree, some governments, well, pretty much every democratic government subsidizes certain areas of the economy, or things that help the economy, like roads and.
Yeah, when I say democratic, why would you say that? Because a communist country subsidizes everything.
Yeah.
So when you say a democratic country subsidizes a certain amount, what connection are you making?
Well,
so what I'm getting at is democracy can subsidize or not subsidize to which whatever. So they don't have to go together, but they can.
Yeah, right. My point I was getting at is some what are described as democratic, and they have free and fair elections, and freedom of speech to whatever degree, and freedoms that are sort of written in our Constitution and such. There's a big difference in how socialist they are. Like somewhere in Scandinavia and so on. In a way, your healthcare and is subsidized and paid for, cradle to grave. And I don't have a strong opinion. I'm not saying I don't really know, but I'm not saying that is worse than what we have in the United States. And if it works well for them, fine. And but there's more than one way to approach that. But what aggravates me is saying, people calling each other socialists or communists, and without acknowledging there's a lot, Medicare, Social Security, and everything. It could be described as socialist,
and socialism, yeah.
Yeah, and a lot of those people would be up in arms if those were taken away. So it's, I think people want, if you start talking about, let's going to cut Social Security, that's not going to fly, and most people will vote against that.
Well, let me just say this, because I, like you, paid into Social Security from day one. If you've got a job, you're paying into Social Security, almost certainly. When I taught, I paid into state teachers' retirement fund, and not Social Security, but it's similar idea. You don't get a choice. You don't say, I want to sign up for this much of it. You're in it. And when you get to a certain age, you get out whatever they decide you're getting out. If I'd had the option at day one, check this box, son. Do you want to be paying the Social Security for the rest of your life or not? I would have said not. Okay. It would have been up to me. To deal with. Well, okay, then what do I do when I retire? And I'm fine with that.
Right.
I am the individualist. It should, as far as I'm concerned, there should be an opt-out, or even an opt-in, which governmentally speaking means you're not in until you check that box. Say, I want to be in. I see no reason to force people into that. But we're in it, and that's a problem. Now, how you disentangle, how do you pull yourself back out of that? And I don't have an answer. But we keep going in deeper and deeper, and it gets worse and worse. We should be finding a way back out.
Well, I agree. It needs to be, especially Social Security, needs to be adjusted some way to be more, not to go in the red and so on. But as far as your opinion there, that's a valid opinion. But I don't think most people would be in an uproar if they say, "Well, we're going to totally change Social Security." I think would be in an uproar if we're going to change Social Security and you can put in it, join it or not. And it might not work. We might not get we obviously won't get as much money in. I think most people like Social Security the way it is. And, whether that's, best for the country or not, from a political viewpoint, it's like, hard to change, like you say. And I sort of think it's okay. I mean, I don't think it's hurting our country.
But we were just using the term free market. That's not what Social Security is. My point is, we all have the option of buying mutual funds, investing however you want for your retirement. That's free market. But when the government says, here's how it's going to be, and you're in it, that's not free market. That's not democracy. You say we voted for it. Well, I didn't vote for it. I wasn't born at the time they decided to do it. The people who were alive then didn't vote for it. To me, you say, okay, and this is what I don't like about democracy, and people really use the term to mean things it doesn't mean. Democracy just means majority rule. Okay, that's what it means. Is that good? Well, it's good if you're the majority and everybody, it's all going your way. What if you're the minority and you don't like it? Not so good. So there's nothing necessarily fair about it. It's just majority rule. So the majority wants Social Security, let's say. We don't know. Okay, but what about people that don't want it? Why should they have to pay into it? Let the majority that wants it have it. And the people that don't want it, forget it, but they built such a Ponzi scheme there. You were talking about it. Social Security is going broke, and I'm sure they'll find a way out of it to more or less fix it. It's not going to go bankrupt. But their options are print more money, which devalues the dollar. Well, we've just experienced a boatload of that lately, haven't we? Make people work later into their lives and keep paying more in rather than getting more out. Less monthly payments, reducing the payments, or at least not increasing. And these are all things that can be done in some combination of all of those, and they do some combination of all of those. But there's no solution that everybody goes, wow, I like that solution, because, one way or another, it affects all of us. So, however it helps, it also hurts. If you get more in the end, it's because you're paying more at the front. If you get paying less in the front, you get less at the back.
Yeah.
Either that or you're cheating. There's no magic means to make this all work just ever so one.
Yeah. I think that touches on a real deep subject. How much control of our lives should we give to the government?
That's a big question in my life.
And I think, some control is needed. If we set up courts, and if somebody commits murder, we, decide to put them in jail, that's government power, and some things I believe aren't most efficiently supplied by a free market. Certain areas.
I'm not so sure, but you go ahead.
Well, like an obvious example is, if you build a house and you want a road in front, the road to come to your house, you have to build it yourself. Or interstate highways, how would you fund something like that? And without
guess how the interstates got built? Free market economies. Those are private contractors. They're paying public money. But from taxpayers, money from gas tax or whatever. But that's actually
but the money came from government, just like Medicare
came from us.
It came from the taxpayers.
Yeah.
But like Medicare, for example, the doctors, it's getting less and less this way. It's getting more controlled by the government to get the money, but still. The doctors are somewhat, they don't work for the government. But the government pays a certain amount for certain patients, their fees. And, would it be better if they didn't? I don't think so. I think Social Security is fine. And this is something we could have a whole other podcast.
Medicare? We were talking about Medicare.
Yeah. What did I say?
Social Security.
Oh, yeah. I meant Medicare. But this could be a whole other podcast. I think
we can split this up.
Yeah, I think. Well, I can't stay too. I should go pretty soon.
Okay.
Yeah. But anyways, I think that there's a good argument to be made that the government can supply healthcare more efficiently, spend less, and cover more people than the free market. And that's and basically, I don't think the medical system works on a free market very well. And I think it's hard to get it to work on a free market. When you get medical care, you don't check, all the different surgeons and what their rates are and so on. But, so I don't think it works very well or could work very well. Having a total free market.
Different because until I was in the government program known as Medicare. I provided my own health care through private insurance.
Right.
I had my own business. And I say I had my own business. It wasn't a company policy, but I had no other resource except my own, get my own policy with the family on it. It's doable. And surprise, surprise, it wasn't notoriously expensive because I picked and chose, and I had choices. I said, and I talked to people, this rep from this company, this rep from that, and they're competing. I'd say, I'm going to take this one. And it wasn't terrible. No, not at all. And of course, as you know, we're on Medicare now, which is not free. We pay something like $170 a month per person.
Right. It's cheaper than buying health insurance.
We couldn't buy health insurance because no company's going to try to compete against Medicare. They can't do it. But anyway, no. And the thing is, nobody protects money like the owner of the money.
Yeah.
Okay.
I can agree with that.
If there's $100 in my pocket, it's up to me to decide how to spend it, or it's up to the government to decide how to spend it. I trust me a hell of a lot more.
Yeah.
Even if the government is spending it on my behalf, I trust me a hell of a lot more to spend it wisely. And my experience doesn't disprove any of that. So I don't presume for a nanosecond government is more efficient. It can. I'll say it can be.
Yeah.
Is it likely to be? No.
I just, haven't done a deep dive into this topic, but from some of the stuff I've read, well, I mentioned this before, whatever, France, Canada, or wherever, often spends less of their GDP on healthcare than the United States does.
Mhm.
And this is where we might differ. This is something
I agree with this. Go ahead.
okay. I think it's worthy. And if you get enough people to agree with you, I think it should be our policy that the government should provide a minimum level of health care for everyone. And some people, they can't afford a good insurance. They may have, different. I don't pretend to judge someone who, you say, well, if he was more frugal, he could, he'd be in better shape and he could afford this, and now he's demanding the government to pay for it.
But that does happen.
That does happen. But I think overall, even for business, I think, a lot of businesses feel like, well, to compete, we have to provide health insurance. If it was sort of one setup over the whole country in the same rules, for as far as paying and what they'll pay for, insurance companies, some will pay for this procedure, some won't, some will pay for this drug, some won't, set a level playing field where either.
Well, that's what Obamacare is supposed to be.
Yeah.
But nobody's on it. Hardly.
Oh, a lot of people are on it. It's actually each year it's increasing. My wife is on it because she's retired, but she's not yet eligible and we've saved a lot of money, but that's not the reason it should be, but, so, that's, it might be just a basic disagreement between us, which is fine. And, but that's my opinion. Now, I don't say that if the government ran it, they might totally screw it up. They may
have in a lot of ways. Not necessarily every bit of it all the time, but they have screwed a lot of it up, as you well know. We were talking about the cost of insulin. I remember one of our conversations. How did it ever be up $750 or whatever it was a month? And we were talking about regulations. And I said, it's that it got to be that expensive because of regulations, because the regulations caused the competition to go away. And so basically a guy was set in a position to be able to charge that and get away with it in a free market. He can charge anything he wants, $750 for insulin. No, thanks. I think I'll buy mine for $30 from this guy, but nice talking to you,
Yeah.
So that's what happens when you get too many regulations.
Right. I could agree with that. I don't know what caused that one. I didn't know why he didn't. There weren't any competitors. He might have.
He was playing the system. He saw the glitch.
Yeah.
He knew the system. He saw the glitch and said, "Here's my shot," and he did it.
And he didn't care what.
And he did.
Yeah. And I'm not going to disagree with that example. But anyways, could we might need to continue this.
I like it. Yeah, we're having a good time here. We can do this some more, but Rich is going to go. So, so
I've enjoyed this conversation very much. But it seems every time we have a conversation, we uncover all these other areas we haven't argued about.
Well, and that's the way real life is,
Yeah.
It's what keeps it interesting anyway.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm going to wrap it up here, and we'll talk to you next time. Thanks for listening.
Okay. Thank you.